Queer-coded films and characters have existed almost as far as films have, often used in a way to escape codes and censors and the bad eyes of certain religious and conservative groups. As a result, these were subtextually imprinted onto certain characters, which created a series of stereotypes for queer people, many of which we still find ourselves guided by. We have subsequently wired our brains to seeing certain characteristics, mannerisms, or looks as queer, even if that wasn't its original intention. I'm Claudia here for Geek Up or Shut Up, and today we're going to be talking about how Lara Croft is an extremely positive queer-coded character. Before we dive into this juicy subject, I have two disclosures. Firstly, I will be focusing solely on Reboot Lara, as in Lara Croft from Tomb Raider 2013, and its two sequels. We, however, respect all Laras in this channel, and so should you. Secondly, queer coding and queerbaiting are not the same thing. In its essence, queerbaiting is harmful. It tries to profit off the queer community without fully committing to representation, and queer coding is neutral in a way that it can be either positive or negative depending on the way it is used. As stated, queer coding started as a way to evade censors. Still seen as taboo, queer characters were pushed to roles of monsters, madmen, killers, and people who innately died in the end or were even already dead. Call these the original bury your gays. This evil was often attempted to be destroyed in favor of whatever straight couple of the movie. But an also easy way to queer code a character was to give them queer traits, as in more feminine characteristics for men and more masculine ones for women. Naturally, many of these stereotypes have traveled into modern times, and it's hard to disconnect from them. Hence why basically every single Disney villain can have queer connotations, and whether this is intentional or not, it doesn't matter. We've grasped onto these characters for representation because it's all, as a community, we were told we were. Just monsters with unnatural desires.
And told me all about herself. Everything. Things I'll never tell a living soul. I wanted to kill her. It would have been so easy.
So it's hard to not connect to villains, who are, more often than not, misunderstood. Times, however, are evolving, and though we still have a long road ahead of us, we've come a long way since the ghost lesbians of The Uninvited and Rebecca, and we're starting to wire ourselves differently.
Actually, your hair could be better too, now that I see you again. The pair of you, like tomboys, out chasing after...
Auntie, please.
Lara is not the regular woman in distress in video games and movies alike that you'd normally get in the past. She doesn't dress in a feminine way, she has muscle, and she engages in less than ladylike activities like cold-blooded murder. This doesn't have to be the image of a modern queer woman or sapphic person. Gender and sexuality aren't that black and white. However, the point here is the stereotypes effectively engraved into the way we perceive things. In old queer coding rules, Lara displays characteristics previously only seen in men. She also makes heart eyes at any woman that comes near her, but we'll get to that. This makes Lara the perfect contender for 30s to 60s queer coding, but what happens here is not only a subversion of those tropes, but a lasting and positive effect of this portrayal. How so? Lara is a flawed character, an assassin, a woman who can kill better than I can cook. She's a character with personality, imperfections, things that she wishes she could change, but at the end of the day, she needs these skills, and she ends up embracing them. We never really get too much development on the fact Lara actually loves to fight, and it's always felt like too easy of a task for her to kill.
That can't have been easy.
It's scary just how easy it was.
But the fact of the matter is, she does, and it is, and in her mind, this makes her a monster. She's not the vampire lesbian of Dracula's daughter, and she won't have to eventually meet her fate because she's coded to be queer, but she is her own modern iteration of this rule. They give her the burden of having that monster inside that just needed to get out, but they allow for this to be part of her character and part of a personality that can develop and evolve instead of being an inherently bad and unforgiving thing. Furthermore, they go as far as to reverse the female and male gender roles established in previous media even more, and in the past what would have been seen as a bad thing to stay away from, here gets used as a device to make us sympathize with the main character. Lara is allowed to do the heroic male thing, and she has to save the damsel in distress. She's given the normally male traits that would have been frowned upon in the past, but she also gets the good traits. She gets to be the hero, she gets to make the promise of rescue and carry the female counterpart bridal style down the mountain to safety. This forces us, as a queer audience, to relate to someone who's flawed, struggling, and is traumatized, who hid the monster in the closet until it was allowed to come out, like we've done so many times before, but here they give us the chance to also relate to someone who can be the hero, who can use her monster-like abilities for good, to rescue her friends and the best friend she's clearly in love with, to save the world from a possible inhuman army of religious soldiers. To prevent the apocalypse, she technically starts because she makes mistakes, but she's not simply punished for them, she's given the chance to rectify them. The wonderful thing here is that what would normally be a one-dimensional character with bad characteristics and poor judgment,
She was incapable of love, or tenderness, or decency.
is actually turned into a great character, capable of great danger, great wholesomeness, and great gayness. The takeaway here is that we're allowed to relate to a character who's no longer just a monster meant for hell, but we're also favored with the ultimate subversion of past queer coding tropes. Because back then, this would have all been undermined and destabilized by some sort of straight ending. But in this trilogy, we get the complete opposite. All the possible males either die or are forced into a heterosexual relationship of their own, leaving Laura to continue to make googly eyes at any and all pretty girls she comes across. Even without a blatant love interest in the sequels, Laura is the perfect embodiment of my sexuality is not the most interesting thing about me. She flirts and gains these women's trust and goes around not taking any shit from men, but this is also not what defines their entire personality. And because of this, Laura isn't just a character that's built to die, nor is she meant to be punished into heterosexual hell either. She's built beyond that, and gets development beyond that, because she is, at the end of the day, the lead and the star of her own show. Laura is effectively queer-coded, whether they like it or not, because queer-coding doesn't have to be intentional on part of the creator, and it never has to be canon or explicit. It can just be for us, as a queer audience, wanting good representation, and wanting to look up to someone who's a clearly proud and raging lesbian. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed my rant on 3 of my most favorite subjects at the moment. And if you did like it, let me know in the comments below, and give me your opinion on this, or tell me nicely if you disagree and why. And let us know what other essays you'd like to see. You can like this if you want, subscribe if you're gay, and geek up with us until our next video. Sounds weird. And raging lesbian. And raging lesbian. Lesbian! Woo!